Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we are almost through the initial testing for every company. One to go, Callaway for us.
Yeah.
So this is where it starts getting interesting as we see different characteristics coming from these heads and we start pitting them against each other. It's time for head-to-head season.
Definitely. We had a ton of attention with Cobra Rad, 2 weeks ago? Yeah. We've got a bunch of new stuff, SIM obviously being probably the hottest ticket right now. Yeah. I just feel like it was so good at the time we didn't have enough to compare it to. I just want to see in the moment, is it going to be a crazy contender all year, or was it sort of an early thing that maybe dies off?
That wave of interest when big companies launch product, the last kind of week and a half, we've had Ping, we've had Taylormade, Callaway.
Yeah.
It's very easy for people to forget that you posted the fastest ever ball speed.
That's right.
On the channel, your personal best with the RADSPEED, probably like a month and a half ago. So
correct.
You can't ignore that, and it's still a phenomenal driver, and it's still one for the value conversation in that it's quite significantly cheaper than the other premium offerings in the market.
Very true. So either you go through Cobra's stock shaft kind of matrix and you get one for kind of no upcharge, or you can put that extra $150 or so towards an upcharge. Last
year when we were doing some comparisons with Taylormade product and Cobra product, it kind of felt like unless we done SIM2 versus the Cobra, we weren't really tasting for apples because of the sliding weight. Yeah. The playing field has been leveled.
That's true. Yes, these are the comparable ones, RADSPEED and SIM2 regular.
That's it. So we've moved the weight into the back of RADSPEED because that's where it kind of suits you the best.
Definitely.
We're going to do SIM2 today because that's obviously the two speed drivers, the lower spinning offerings, and then obviously the extreme models and the Max we'll do another date.
We still need to review that RAD-X anyway.
We do.
Yep.
We do.
Awesome.
All right, let's get some early warm-ups, sighters with this guy. Okay. We're going to use Ventus Blue in both. 6X.
Speccing them as close as we can, 9 degree on both. The weight placement is basically identical. So.
Perfect.
Okay.
Very nice. Kind of probably 11-ish launch, 1900 less?
1729.
Launch, what was the, launch 11.
Yep.
That's
better
nice.
swing.
That's really good. That's nice. That's the one.
That's the one.
A little more launchy, a little less aggressive in the old spinner.
Ooh. That's nice.
Toasty.
That one's hit well. Hot. Hot, hot, hot,
okay.
hot.
Switcheroo.
That's nice. Different sound, that's for sure.
Yeah, very different. Actually that sounded like a miss hit. Flew like a real good drive, but it sounded like a high head miss.
Definitely was a little high in the head. Yep. Yes.
Handsome.
I like that.
Yeah, that's good. I hear what you mean about the sound.
Yeah.
It's a better sound.
Better sound on this, yeah, I agree. I don't hate the sound of the Cobra, but this is clearly more pleasing. It's a nice shape. I'd play this driver. I just don't think the Cobra is for me. I think it has the raw ingredients for a ton of great stuff.
Yeah,
Maybe it just doesn't suit me because it's very, very low spin, and I just don't need that low spin. It's not a criticism, it's just a fitting issue, I guess.
It's a goodie.
Yeah, really good.
All right, well, what an interesting test that was. As much as interesting as an overused word on the TXG YouTube channel.
Sometimes we say interesting, yeah.
That one truly, truly was.
Yeah.
In the space of all of that, we barely could separate those two drivers.
So similar. Amazing.
1 yard in terms of total distance. RADSPEED snuck it in that the launch went up a little bit more, so even though the ball speed was down 1.2 miles an hour, the launch being up just gave a slight edge on the carry number. So we had two 9-degree drivers turn to 10. In an ideal world, we probably are going to start at 10, 10.5 with you when we do this test in the future, and have the option to come down ever so slightly. So that would be the only modification I would do to this test to see if you could find a window that might be even more consistent for you.
Because that would help me keep the loft in the face a bit longer. It would appear that, like, obviously it's not shut in this, but it's a bit shut. I've lost the loft a little bit too much. My spin is a little bit too low. So 10.5 lofted to like 10 or 9.75 would probably be great.
You were working hard at the end there to kind of keep loft on it, loft on it.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, it was actually shifting your path quite a bit. So your path went from being super neutral early on to shifting out to the left.
Interesting, eh?
When we look at RADSPEED,
yeah, same
sort of pattern as you kind of fought to keep that loft on there.
Yeah.
So understanding, guys, the implications of if you don't quite have the spec right, you will change. Don't think that you're going to stand there and make the exact same swing and you can blame the club's fault. You will try to adapt to the scenario that you've got going on and make that ball flight what you really want it to be. That's why you custom fit, so you don't have to do that. You can be the most optimal version of yourself more often.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what that felt like. I knew going into this that neither of these drivers at 9 are for me. We just only have the Rad at 9 degrees right now. We have to test them loft for loft. But a lot of shots that I hit, I said the same thing to you. I think I made a really good swing there. Strike was good. I look up, the ball's diving out of the air or it's hooking a bit.
So beyond the numbers, looking past what we've seen here.
Yeah.
On your experience of the two drivers, we both prefer the sound of the Taylormade.
I prefer the sound of the Taylormade. I prefer the address, look, and position of the Taylormade.
Yeah. And if it came down to it for you and you basically went, what's the same? On one corner, you've got almost a $200 saving.
Yeah.
On the other one, you've got a look and feel that you prefer. Where do you go?
I think for me personally, this driver was a lot lower maintenance, the Sim. And again, this is just me because I'm not a high spin player. It would be worth the extra expense for me personally to go with the Sim.
Yep.
That being said, if I was a high spin player, I would literally run out of the store with the Cobra. I'd save $200. I would have a better ball flight because it is one of the lowest spin drivers we've tried.
Yeah.
And I'd be stoked. I just think if you are a low spin player, you're either going to have really high loft in the Rad, or you might just look elsewhere.
We've tried to make them the same here. We've tried to kind of set them up so they are going to provide a comparable test, and to be honest, it's done exactly that. We could separate them quite significantly. We could flip that weight. It's one thing I wish we had in the SIM2's the ability to, move that weight front and back. If we had turned that back down to 9 degrees and put that weight to the front, like Matt said, for the low spin player, you have another dimension to your driver that you don't have in the Taylormade. You've got a loft that you can adjust in rotation, but that might not suit certain players. You wouldn't have to necessarily rotate the head or change the loft. You could subtly adjust the weight position to give you the ball flight exactly and just dial it in that bit more.
And there's different weights in that. There's heavy, light, or you can go just kind of mid.
Yeah.
So you're right. I think considering that driver's cheaper, Taylormade not having any adjustable weight, it's a bit of a downer because, again, what's the excuse? That's $200 less and it has it, so.
I know. Okay, well, I mean, the story's unfolding a little bit now. It is for us. We can start to see why in the fits this season we're going to be going and choosing one driver over another. It's going to have different elements that we can help people just dial in their flight just that little bit more. All these drivers are good. Everyone makes a good product now, and if you just baseline them all against each other, you're probably not going to come up with too many conclusive answers. But we're taking it, levels beyond that now by adjusting weights, different shafts, keying in on the player, Matt's timing. I think that shaft was a good one. It is a good one for you in Ventus Blue. So we initially thought about Ventus Black, and then we thought that might be a bit of a struggle, being that the lofts are on the low side.
This was helpful, I think, in getting a bit more dynamic loft. And Ventus Black is usually one of the lowest, I shouldn't say lowest spinning shafts, but for me, I get the lowest spinning drives usually when I use Ventus, because it moves my strike higher in the head. Definitely.
You're going to minimize that forward deflection to keep that dynamic loft a little bit on the lower side. Definitely. You would see that from how tip stiff that Ventus Black is. The most tip stiff shaft Fujikura have ever made. So that was not what we needed in this scenario. If we had more starting loft, we could maybe stabilize the head vertically and horizontally by having that more tip stiff shaft. That would be an option that I would have if we had more loft in our hands. That option was taken away by the fact we didn't have the right lofts.
Yeah, and I think just as you said that, I was thinking a 10.5 degree rad, this is just for me, more loft, you might be able to move the weight forward instead. I'd get way more launch. The spin would still be really low, and you might be able to put something like Ventus Black back in for dispersion control. That's what we will see in the fitted versions of these drivers. I think today, the stock versions, they're both really good, a little bit similar. You just got to pick your preference and go for a fit.
Go for that. Okay, starting to see some head-to-heads, guys. Hope you're enjoying this, and this is maybe something that you guys have been thinking about. We've done a Titleist and a Ping, obviously Taylormade Cobra. We've got some other drivers coming in. Callaway, we're just going to have them coming through the door any day now, so we'll probably pick something else to pop that against when we see the performance on those. Maybe pick some of the other Ping heads, the Max head and the SFT, maybe even just to go up against the D-types.
Good point.
We're going to do a little battle of the draw drivers.
We should do that. Talk about who those drivers are for, and they're really good heads. There's a reason those companies all seem to have them every year.
I think we are seeing slight nuances, and some going really aggressive on the amount of curvature, and others being a little bit more subtle towards it.
Definitely. More to come.
More head-to-heads to come. Okay, stay tuned for that, guys. We will see you again soon.